I'm back with another book review, or 2 book reviews in one video. Ooh. I know it's been a while since I posted my last book review, but since then I have gotten a job, had a 2-week vacation, and directed a short film, so I'm very sorry to my fans, but I'm back now, and I'm actually going to be reviewing 2 of the High Republic books that I listened to the audiobooks for, so I don't have the physical copy to hold and show you and fangirl over. I love both of these books a lot, and I can't wait to tell you about them. The first book that I'm going to be reviewing is Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. This is my official spoiler warning. I'm not going to spoil the events. Oh, well, yes, I will. Proceed with caution is what I'm going to say. The story takes place concurrent with Light of the Jedi, where the Legacy Run disaster has happened, and Reath Silas is on his way to, Starlight Beacon? Okay, so the cast includes Reath Silas, who is Jorah Malley's Padawan. Jorah Malley is really cool. She's a Togruta, and she's awesome. I just love her art. And then Light of the Jedi spoilers. Reath Silas is joining his Jedi Master Jorah Malley on Starlight Beacon in the Frontier, but he stayed behind at the Jedi Temple to, like, finish his something. He meets up with Des Rydan, who is Jorah Malley's first Padawan, and he's like, well, unfortunately, our transportation isn't transporting us anymore. So them, along with Orla Jareni, who, oh my gosh, I love her so much. She has dark gray lightsaber, and it's also white, so it's so cool. I loved her story so much. Comac Vitus, I think that's it. Along with the crew of the new ship, the vessel, and its pilot's name is Leox, and they are joined by Affie Hollow, who I also love, she's so cool, and the ship's navigator, Geode. Altogether, this group of Jedi and Bind Guild pilots all get on this ship, they go off into space, and then the Legacy Run disaster happens, and chunks of flying ships are going everywhere, and it's very exciting. They appear at this station that seems uninhabited, or it's the nearest safe place that's within, like, the hyperspace code of the ship, the vessel, and there's a bunch of other ships coming out of hyperspace, and they're all like, so basically the story is about all of these groups kind of coming together on this ship, and I thought it was really interesting. It showed another version or tale of events that happened during the Legacy Run that was really cool. I think it introduced us. I don't know if I don't really know exactly the order of, like, comic book. I know it pretty well. I've been trying to follow it. But as far as for me, this was the first appearance of one of the bads of the High Republic, the Drengir. And they are so cool. They're scary, but scary cool. Diving into some more of the characters, I really liked Reath Silas. He was the main character. His story was told mostly along with Affie Hollow, who is the co-pilot of the vessel. There's also flashback chapters with Orla, Jareni, and Comac Vitus when they were Padawans, and they were dealing with this situation with their masters, and it's just so interconnected and beautiful, and I just really enjoyed myself reading this novel. One of the things that I really like that the High Republic is doing is not being afraid to show that the Jedi have, like, an attractive quality to them. One of the, like, ongoing jokes is that one of the characters that's also stranded on the space station that everybody's stranded on has a crush on Reath Silas because he's pretty, and I'm just like, she understands. I loved that little side plot. There's also a part where Reath and Affie are talking about, like, it's a YA novel. It's a YA novel, so it's not quite like an adult novel, and it's also not a middle grade novel, so they deal with kind of like the in-between awkward teen stages of the Jedi and whatnot, and it's just such a like I love it. It's so fun and cute. Spotlighting Orla Jareni because I really love her. I'm gonna bring up a picture of her, and as you can see, she has, like, the most interesting lightsaber, like, known to man. It's like, I mean, there's a picture of it. I'm not gonna, but it's so cool. I'm just so glad. I love the High Republic because they're really, like, I watched an interview or something where they were talking about how with a lot of Star Wars characters in the current canon, like Luke Skywalker or Darth Maul, you know where they start and you know where they end, so you have to kind of figure out where to insert the stories you want to tell in between those. But with the High Republic, anyone is fair game, and I just love that because it's like you don't really know what's gonna happen. Anyone could die at any moment, and there's no prerequisite as to when or how that happens. It's creating it as it goes. It's introducing these characters in a way that makes you A, care about them, and also like, it's so cool. Like, it's Star Wars, it's lightsabers, it's Jedi at the height of their power. It's the golden years of the Republic before the events of, like, episodes 1 through 3 and the Clone Wars and all of that. One of the things that I really like about Star Wars in general are the Jedi. The fact that we get to see them at, like, this height of, you know, we get to see them collaborating with other species and kind of being, like, the leaders and the peacekeepers and all of that is really interesting, because during the Clone Wars, you know, Jedi aren't supposed to be warriors, and yet they're the generals of the Grand Army of the Republic. Like, it's such a different group of people. It's such a different feeling for the Jedi during the High Republic, because there are also so much more of them. Like, there are so many Jedi characters that you're not, like, worrying, oh, well, Order 66 is gonna come along, and none of them are alive anymore because Phase 1 takes... My phone just ran out of storage, so I had to do a file transfer. Where was I? Oh yeah, so none of the characters are alive during, like, the Phantom Menace verse era, except for, like, Yoda and a few really old members of the council. Actually, I think Oppo-Rancisis, I think he was alive. I think he's a council member. I think I remember reading that in one of the other novels, and I was like, wait a minute, he's really old. But Yoda's still around. Yoda's still kicking, so that's kind of interesting. I have opinions about Yoda. I'll keep them to myself. Circling back to the Drungear, they are such an interesting villain group, because as of, like, this story, we don't know a lot about their motivations or how they came into being, and I'm sure it's eventually explained, like, in the comics, again, which I haven't fully explored yet. But as I'm just having such a good time with, like, new Star Wars content, a completely new era, not having to worry about, like, wow, this erases this canon event. Canon, comic book, The Bad Batch. I really like having these new characters and villains to explore in this light and light. That's Avar Chris. I love Avar Chris. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I just love having this new era of Star Wars that a lot of authors and creators and whatnot are having a lot of fun with, creating new characters and new villains for these characters to fight, and just, like, all around, it's so much fun. So now I'm actually gonna transition into the other book that I read. It is called A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland, and this was a middle grade Star Wars novel, so I don't know what I was expecting from it, but holy cow, it was so good. Basically, the story follows Vernestra Rowe, a newly appointed Jedi Knight and the youngest appointed Jedi Knight in, like, a hot second. She was appointed Knight at age 15. She's currently 16, and she was the Padawan of Stellan Gios, who is one of my current... I have read a little bit more ahead than these ones, but she is the Padawan, or ex-Padawan, of Stellan Gios, and he is actually one of my favorite characters in the High Republic saga, and I didn't know this at the time. When I was reading it, that he would be one of my favorite characters. Vernestra, basically, she is on a ship with a delegation that's going to Starlight Beacon when the Legacy Run disaster happens. Honestly, I thought that it would get repetitive, because I kind of knew that, like, there'd be, like, the main adult novel where it's, like, this big plot point happens, and then the YA and middle grade would kind of be, like, other stories of the repercussions of that. But honestly, I didn't find it that repetitive, which was great. I really enjoyed myself reading Into the Dark and A Test of Courage. Basically, she's with this delegation and this other Padawan, and they crash land, and the Padawan's master dies on the ship, and everybody else in the delegation dies on the ship, and Vernestra has to take care of the Padawan Emery. I listened to it. I didn't read this one. There's the two kids who are part of delegations and senatorial whatnots, and their droid. This was my first introduction to Vernestra, and I knew that she was an adult character in The Acolyte, which takes place 100 years after. It takes place, like, if Phase 1 is here, and Phase 2 is here, and Phase 3 is here, The Acolyte, and this is, like, the rest of Star Wars, The Acolyte kind of takes place here. It takes place after Phase 1 and 3, but before The Phantom Menace still by about 100 years, and I knew that she was going to be in that show, so I did a little bit of research, and apparently her species lives to, like, age 200, so, like, that's kind of interesting. And I didn't really like her when I first started reading it. I have this thing about, like, pick-me characters, and she was kind of giving me pick-me vibes at the beginning. I know that if I was younger, I would have connected with her instantly because, like, that's me. But it did take me a second to actually start liking her. But I was very pleasantly surprised as I continued reading the story about how much I grew to like her and how much I, like, love her now. Like, she's probably one of my favorite High Republic characters now, which is great because I think she returns in... Well, there's another middle grade novel, and then there's also the second one, like, in the YA series. I believe she's in that, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I love Vernestra. She's so cool. She has a pink lightsaber, and it turns into a, spoiler, a light whip. And also, this book kind of was also, like, really interesting in its aspect of the dark side. It kind of started to explore what the dark side, or what the calls to the dark side look like in, this era of Star Wars, and it ended up kind of getting, like, a lot darker than I thought it was, which is where I was like, whoa, this middle grade novel is actually, it's, like, amazing. Like, it's so good. I think Star Wars has a lot of issues with adults, period, not wanting to interact with media made for a younger audience. We saw it with Rebels, where people were like, oh, well, I don't like the animation, so I'm not going to watch it, and they missed out on an incredible story. So I definitely say, if you're delving into the High Republic, like, these middle grade novels are not to be missed. I was like holding my breath at some parts because these characters are just so, like, well-rounded and well-written, and I just want to be in the room. I want to be in the room where it happens. I would love to be in the room where the High Republic... I've been doing research because I find it so interesting how this whole thing came about. And there was a group of the writers that, and also the Lucas Story Group, which is like, hello, dream job, preserving the Star Wars canon, hello. Where they all got together at Skywalker Ranch and had kind of like a whiteboard. Oh, well, this is in this, and then it was so cool. I love Star Wars. Just seeing all of these new stories coming about and all of these new characters that you get to, like, grow to love. Vernestra reminds me a lot of Ahsoka, because Ahsoka obviously started off, you know, 14, beginning of the Clone Wars, 2007, people hated her, and I was always one of those kids who was like, wow, I am who I am. I've always loved Ahsoka Tano, and that was kind of the thing that I was feeling with Vernestra. It sounds very dramatic when I say I didn't like her in the beginning, because I literally didn't like her for, like, the first 2 chapters, and then, like, then I did. Like, it was, like, instantaneous. I was like, oh my god, she's so cool, wait. And I really think that's an ode to Justina Ireland's, like, writing, because it is, like, it could have so easily been that Vernestra was, like, this kind of, like, pick me, choose me, love me type character, but she wasn't. And I don't like putting negative energy towards characters as well. Like, I hate Tarkin, and I think that's valid. I think he's an interesting character. I think he's a character that was created to be hated. But no, I loved her character development throughout this book, and I think it will really resonate with a lot of middle grade girls who are just getting into Star Wars, or have been into Star Wars since they were, like, a little kid, and just wanting to see more young girl representation that isn't the internet hating 14-year-old Ahsoka or 14-year-old Ezra. Like, even with Star Wars Rebels and, like, Star Wars Resistance, I was one of those people who were like, you know, Star Wars Resistance, I'm not super interested in watching it because it wasn't made for my age group. And then I watched it and I was like, wait a minute, this is fun, this is so fun. And it's not that it necessarily has to be deep, even though this one is. I don't know the point I was making. Watch Star Wars Resistance, I guess. It was a lot of fun. It was like, it wasn't that deep, but then, like, it had its moments where it was like, whoa, yeah, it's Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching this video. I went on a couple tangents there for a bit, but all in all, I really love these 2 novels, and I really think that the High Republic era is so interesting and so cool, and I can't wait to read more of it. I have read the next adult novel, so stay tuned because I have a lot to say about it. It was so good. I love Elzar and Stellan and Belle and just all of the characters of, like, the adult novel verse. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and comment if you've read any of the High Republic books and what you think about them, and or recommendations, because you know, my goal is to read all the Star Wars novels. So if there's any I should bump up the list, let me know. Bye!